They feared cloud serpents as monsters. One girl chose to save one. Years later, that choice would turn the tide of a war. Warcraft Chronicle, The Rise of the Cloud Serpent Riders. Hey, Leora.
Hey, so last episode, Kang won. The Mogu Empire fell, the Pandaren built something new. Peace and quiet. Everybody's happy.
And I'm guessing that's about to end.
This is Warcraft. Peace has a shelf life. Remember the Zandalari and that uneasy arrangement they had with the Mogu?
The knowledge for power partnership. Both sides secretly planning to betray each other.
Right, and remember, that betrayal never actually happened, mostly because Lei Shen got himself erased before either side could act on it. After his death, the trolls kept their distance from the Mogu. They'd never liked the constant infighting, the political knife-fighting between clans. But there was one thing from that whole arrangement they never let go of.
The land.
Lei Shen had promised the Zandalari a stretch of fertile territory near the Vale, forever theirs. And when the Mogu Empire finally collapsed completely, the trolls looked at that promise and thought, well, nobody's around to say no anymore.
Convenient.
There was actually real debate in Zuldazar about how to go about it, diplomacy or force. And the man who tipped the scales was a descendant of Zulathra himself, the high priest who'd struck the original deal with Lei Shen. His name was Mengazi.
And he chose force.
He argued the Pandaren wouldn't honor a deal their old masters made, and that former slaves who'd just overthrown an empire were exactly the kind of people who could put up a real fight if given time to prepare. So, no mourning. Strike hard, strike fast, break their will before they can organize.
And that's exactly what happened.
The Zandalari marched south, hit a peaceful farming village north of Kunlai Summit first, riding massive Saurian war beasts wielding mystic power the Pandaren had never encountered. They slaughtered nearly everyone there. Then pushed straight into the Jade Forest, the heart of the new Pandaren Empire.
And the Pandaren had what, exactly, to defend themselves?
Almost nothing. That's the thing. After the revolution, they deliberately let go of the Mogu's militaristic structure. No standing army, just an order of monks assigned to patrol the Serpent's spine against the Mantid. When word of the invasion spread, there was no force ready to meet it.
So the monks had to rush over from the wall.
And they were completely outmatched. The trolls fought in a way nobody had ever seen, descending from the sky on patera wings and giant bats. The Pandaren had no answer for an aerial assault like that.
I'm guessing this is where our hero finally enters the story.
Exactly. Her name was Zhang, a young Pandaren no one expected to change the course of the war. And her story? There's actually a lovely piece of it that comes from an in-game book, The Founding of the Order of the Cloud Serpent, which fills in details the Chronicle's text only briefly touches on.
I like when a side story fills in the gaps.
This one's worth it. When Zhang was just a child, she found a cloud serpent hatchling in the arboretum, badly hurt, alone, its nest destroyed in a storm.
And I'm guessing everyone else saw a monster. She saw something that needed saving.
Her whole village told her to let it go before it grew large enough to be a real threat. Some of them actually distanced themselves from her over it.
But she couldn't bring herself to abandon an injured little creature.
She nursed him back to health anyway, named him Lo. And people in the village would see the two of them flying together, this Pandaren girl and her cloud serpent, completely inseparable.
I already like where this is going.
Years later, when the call went out to fight the Zandalari, Zhang joined the defense. And in one battle, she was hit hard, wounded badly enough that it looked like the end.
Please tell me Lo found her.
He did. He came for her and pulled her out of the fight. And once she'd healed enough to think clearly again, she went to the monks organizing the defense and made a proposal. Train cloud serpents. Build an actual force in the sky.
That's a good idea. Did they go for it?
Rejected. But Zhang kept training with Lo anyway. Then came the battle that proved her right. The Zandalari bat riders tore into the Pandaren lines from above, and the defenders had no way to reach them. The formation was beginning to break.
So this was the moment Zhang had been preparing for.
Zhang and Lo dropping out of the clouds. Lo's fire and fury broke the troll ranks and forced them back. One girl and one dragon, proving that the answer had been in the sky all along.
Satisfying. Everyone told her it was a bad idea, and then, when it mattered most, she was the one who turned the battle around.
Word spread fast. Others followed her lead, started taming cloud serpents of their own. A whole air force grew out of what had started as one girl refusing to abandon an injured baby animal. They became known as the Order of the Cloud Serpent.
From get rid of that thing to the reason we won the war.
Sometimes history turns on the one thing everyone else was ready to cast aside. So, the tide had turned. The trolls couldn't win this conventionally anymore, and Mengazi, staring down defeat, reached for the one card he had left.
What kind of card?
Resurrect Lei Shen.
Oh, I didn't see that coming, but I can see the logic.
Lei Shen had trusted the Zandalari alone with the secret to his revival. Remember, he never trusted his own people with it. The trolls knew that if they could bring him back, he'd have more than enough power to wipe out the Serpent Riders and crush the Pandaren on the ground.
Wait, hold on. Wasn't Zulathra the guy who actually knew the resurrection method? Didn't he die alongside Lei Shen at Uldum, with basically the entire Zandalari leadership?
Somehow the method survived Uldum. Maybe it had been written down, or maybe someone who knew it simply wasn't there that day. The chronicles never say.
Still, if they could do this all along, where was that idea before they started losing?
Probably kept as a last resort. The Zandalari had never truly trusted the Mogu, and Lei Shen was hardly someone they could bring back and expect to control. He might win the war for them, and become an even bigger problem afterward.
So they had to be desperate enough to wake the monster.
Exactly. And there was no guarantee the ritual would even work. We know it could because it succeeded much later. Mengazi didn't. Until every safer option was gone, it was simply too great a gamble.
And clearly they'd run out of options.
Which says a lot about how badly the Zandalari wanted that land. They were willing to bring back an ancient tyrant they probably couldn't control, all for a stretch of fertile ground.
Nothing says sound judgment like resurrecting Lei Shen over a land dispute.
So, the battle moved to the Tomb of Conquerors, where Lei Shen's body was enshrined. And in one final desperate strike, Jiang attacked directly. Killed Mengazi herself.
Incredible.
But it cost Jiang her life. Mengazi was dead, the resurrection attempt had failed, and without their leader, the remaining Zandalari broke and fled. The war was finally over.
She saved her people twice.
She did. They celebrated the victory, but they mourned Jiang deeply. And for decades afterward, Lo was seen circling alone above the Jade Forest, as though he were still waiting for his rider to come home.
That's genuinely heartbreaking.
The other Serpent Riders carried her memory forward by writing down everything she'd taught them, how to train, how to bond, how to fly together. That tradition lasted for thousands of years inside the Order.
You know what stays with me? Jiang never had to command Lo. She took him in, cared for him, and gave him a home. And from then on, he kept choosing her. When she was in danger, when she went to war, and even after she was gone.
That's exactly the thread that runs through the entire Order afterward. If you've ever done the Cloud Serpent reputation questline in-game, you pick an egg, you personally raise the hatchling, you train together, you race together, and only after all of that do you actually become a rider.
So the game makes you live Jiang's story. Build the bond first, learn to fly and fight second.
Which fits the Pandaren philosophy perfectly. Strength through partnership, not through forcing something into submission. The Mogu ruled by breaking their creations into obedience. The Order of the Cloud Serpent does the opposite.
Also, completely unrelated to the philosophy, cloud serpents are just extremely cool-looking creatures.
They really are. No notes there. Okay, the Pandaren story is far from over, but first I want to pull the timeline back a little.
How far back?
Lei Shen's reign stretched from roughly 15,000 to 12,200 years before the Dark Portal. The Zondalari War against the Pandaren that we just covered came later, around 11,900 years before the portal. And around 15,000 years before the portal, roughly the same era as Lei Shen's rise, a group of dark trolls began moving toward the center of Kalimdor.
Dark trolls? I don't think we've talked about them before.
We haven't. They were a secluded group of trolls who kept mostly to themselves in the caves beneath Mount Hyjal. They avoided daylight almost completely and emerged mainly at night. Over generations, that life in the dark even began to change their appearance, their blue skin gradually fading toward gray.
Living in the dark, quite literally shaping who they became.
Exactly. And they were different from their Gurubashi and Amani cousins in other ways, too. They wanted little to do with the constant territorial struggles between the great troll clans. They valued their independence, and they felt a much stronger connection to the natural world. Over time, many of them left the caves and traveled deeper into central Kalimdor.
And then?
Then they found something powerful enough to remake an entire people. And this particular group of trolls was about to become something you know very, very well.
All right, now you have my attention. Keep going.
Eventually, they found an enormous lake filled with shimmering, radiant energy, the Well of Eternity. They settled along its shores, and generation after generation, the power flowing from the lake worked its way into their flesh and bone. Slowly, they changed. They grew taller and more graceful. Their intelligence and magical potential expanded. Their lives stretched so far that they seemed almost immortal.
Trolls, transformed by the Well of Eternity. Wait, are we talking about night elves?
We are.
I cannot believe I'm sitting here with a night elf and being told that her people started as trolls.
Yes, laugh it up. I'm aware of the irony.
So, night elves are basically trolls who lived beside a magical lake for long enough.
That is genuinely the short version. And as their forms changed, so did their beliefs. Their mystics started worshipping a moon goddess they called Elune, a being they believed was bound to the well itself.
Since we're talking about Elune, everyone in Warcraft knows the name. But what do we actually know about her?
That's where it gets interesting. At this point in the story, we mostly know Elune as the Night Elves understood her, their moon goddess. They believed she rested within the Well of Eternity during the day, and they knew Cenarius as the son of Elune and the white stag, Malorn. Some of that understanding would become clearer much later, but Elune's full nature is still a mystery even now.
Okay, that's the Night Elf answer. What did players think she actually was?
For a long time, a lot of players speculated that Elune might actually be Azeroth's own world soul, which would have been a genuinely elegant twist, honestly. But more recent expansions have moved away from that idea. Azeroth now has her own separate, independent story as a world soul, and Elune has been described instead as something else, a sister and counterpart to a being called the Winter Queen.
What's the Winter Queen's whole deal?
That belongs to the domain of death. Elune, by contrast, is connected to the domain of life. Together, the idea is that they represent the ongoing cycle and balance between life and death. But that's genuinely far removed from where we are in the story right now. Right now, all that matters is, to the Night Elves, Elune is real. A powerful presence who answers prayer, who grants strength and blessing. That belief becomes the foundation of an entire religious order.
The Sisterhood of Elune.
Based in a city called Suramar, devoted entirely to venerating the moon goddess. And the sisterhood wasn't just spiritual. Its priestesses became central to nearly everything in early Night Elf society, from guiding belief to helping defend their earliest settlements.
So this new civilization is taking shape, around a lake, around a goddess, and around a way of life all their own.
And they call themselves Kaldorai, children of the stars, Night Elves. Cenarius himself takes an interest in them, teaches them, hopes they'll become great caretakers of the natural world. For a long time, that's exactly what they do.
So Cenarius meets a new people, and his first thought is, have you considered becoming caretakers of nature?
He does tend to lead with that. And for a while, the Kaldorai were happy to listen. But eventually, some of the Night Elves stopped wanting harmony with the wilds, and start wanting to understand everything about the power sitting right at the center of their society. They become obsessed with the well's arcane secrets. And it's during that shift, that turn toward power, toward magic, toward pushing every boundary they can find, that one particular night elf rises to lead them.
Who?
Queen Ajara.
A name that's going to matter a lot, and the focus of our next episode.
If you enjoyed this one, subscribe so you don't miss what comes next.
If you're learning English, or if some Warcraft terms felt confusing, tap the video link in the top right. Our vocabulary episode explains useful English expressions from today's story, along with the Warcraft terms we mentioned. See you next time.
See ya.